But first off, I wanted to remind people about the Law Reform and Social Justice program generally, because there are lots of options for getting involved in law reform and understanding how the law works in action, even if you don't get into a clinic or in your earlier years at law school, perhaps before you apply to be in a clinic. Just running through some of the, exciting projects that the LRSJ has got going at the moment. One is community legal education, which delivers modules in topical legal issues to local high schools and colleges. The Indigenous Reconciliation Project, with which Matthew Zagor, who's the director of the program, tells me is rapidly becoming the most active of all the projects, working on the Raise the Age campaign, Black Lives Matter, implementing the Uluru Statement, etc. There's a human rights project, there's a Centre for Social Justice project, there's a Law Students for Refugees project, which is newly revived and has a very enthusiastic core group, which is fantastic to hear. And there's also the Green Hub, which used to be called Green Law, and that's specifically focusing on research for NGOs that work in the environmental space. And that group has done some really, truly remarkable work in the relatively short time that they've been going. So encourage you, if you don't already, haven't already liked, so to speak, the Facebook page for the LRSJ, to do so, because then you get notified of events. You get the calls for members of new projects, job and volunteer opportunities, etc., etc. So, yes, have a look, check that out if you haven't done so to date. The other thing to note, and we'll touch on this later, is that the ability to show a commitment to law reform, social justice and environmental justice work is one of the selection criteria for clinics. So if you are interested in being in a clinic, it's a great way to show that commitment. Okay, so let's get on to the individual clinics, and we're going to start off with the deep listening on country one that Anthony Hopkins will be convening, and so that's why Anthony is here generously tonight to talk about that very exciting clinic. So over to you, Anthony.
Great, thanks, Viv. And just to echo Viv's words about getting involved with LRSJ as a precursor to clinics, or something you might do along with the clinic. I just think there's so many opportunities there, and also just my experience in teaching in many of the clinics with a number of students who you'll hear from today has been that they can be really quite life-changing experiences. Suddenly law comes alive because you're putting it into action and it's making a difference in people's lives in some way. But look, I'm here to talk about the shorthand for the course is Deep Listening on Country. Its longer title is Legal Education for True Justice, Indigenous Perspectives and Deep Listening on Country. That's a pilot course we're running with the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency. And it's been in train for some time, but COVID has come in the way of it repeatedly. We've had to postpone it, I think, on 3 occasions now. So we haven't yet been able to run the pilot. That now presents an opportunity for some students, because we had 16 students enrolled to travel to the NT, to beginning in Buntua, Alice Springs, and then moving out through a place called Tempe Downs to Uluru. We were going to be sitting out there with traditional owners, with Aboriginal lawyers, Aboriginal health workers, particularly trauma-informed practice, interpreters and others, and really engaging on country with their perspective, considering law from their view, not the other way around, and then considering the conflicts between, First Nations laws and the laws of of settlers and the state, and then looking at opportunities and ways in which we can to work in true partnership. So that was what was going to happen in the NT for a week-long intensive, but COVID had other ideas, and so we weren't able to travel. Now, there were 16 students enrolled. and 8 of those students were able to put their enrolment over to first semester next year. The plan at this stage is for the course to run in the mid-semester break from the 3rd to the 9th of April as an intensive. It'll be a semester long, but its centrepiece is this intensive out in the Northern Territory. And so 8 students were able to put their enrolment off, but 8 had to graduate. And so we've run an alternative course for them. That means there are 8 places available. And so applications will open at the same time as clinic applications. It will be a different form. Maddie may speak about that later as part of just talking about the administrative process. But I invite those of you who are interested in applying to consider that opportunity. It's really as a pilot, in a sense, once in a lifetime type opportunity, I think. But what we hope is that it will be more than a pilot, and it will continue on and become a regular feature of the ANU or offering within the ANU clinic space. So I'm happy to take any questions, since I'm not going to be here for the remainder of this information evening. If people have any questions, I'm happy to take them straight away, if that's all right with you, Viv.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea.
I have a question. Thanks, Anthony. I was just wondering if there's any on-campus requirements for the course, because I'm actually based in the NT, so I'd love to do it. But yeah, just seeing if I'd need to go to Canberra for anything at all.
So in general terms, there are seminars that have an attendance requirement. However, if you're based in the NT in this sort of context, particularly because it's an NT-centric course, there may well be an opportunity to waive that requirement. There's preparation workshops, if you like, that are partly about setting students up so that they're in a position to travel to the NT and be ready for it. So my view would be you should go ahead and apply if you're interested, Laura, and it may relate to work you're doing in the NT. I'm not sure why you're there, but go ahead, and that can be considered. Perhaps mention that if there's a space for that and I'm sure there will be in some way within the application form.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I should just say, and this probably goes without saying to some extent with all clinics, that we don't know what the COVID pandemic environment will be next year. I think there's a really much better chance that we'll get to go, but we can't guarantee it. So it's one of those challenges with all of the clinics that have resulted in many of them having to shut down or take alternative forms. I hope that won't happen, but it's just something that has to be borne in mind. I see Sophie's hand up.
Yeah, are there any requirements with like what year of your degree you have to be in or anything like that?
There are official minimum requirements, and I might let Maddie speak about that in terms of the number. And you have to have completed property law for the deep listening course. The other thing to say about it is that often it is later year students coming to the end because they're in a position to have demonstrated a commitment to some of the goals or the selection criteria, and they're able to therefore put together a more comprehensive application. That goes back to Viv's point about sometimes engaging, demonstrating that existing commitment, for example, to First Nations justice issues. I think Lachlan and then Ben.
Sorry, just realised I was on mute. I know you mentioned it before, I just missed it. What did you say the planned dates for the intensive week were at this point?
Yeah, subject to confirmation, but it's the first week of the mid-semester break, 3rd to the 9th of April. Which means it doesn't cross over with the Easter long weekend.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think Ben and I think Sophie, I think I've responded to your hand up. So,
Anthony, I was just going to ask on that property law, is it okay if you do property law at the same time? Because it's normally recommended to do property law like in your last year of your degree in semester one. So is that allowed, or do you have to have completed property law?
So I think if that's the recommendation, Maddie might want to chime in on this. There is capacity for it to be done at the same time, so I would go ahead and apply in that context.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So the prerequisites for it is you have to have completed or be completing 5 Laws 1000 or 1,000 courses. It does say that you have to have completed property, but obviously Anthony's running the show, and we have had previous applicants go through with actually completing it at the same time. So please go and I'm so sorry, I'm lost for words, apply in any case, because all of that's taken into account when we assess your applications. I'll give the convener all of that information, whether you are applying. And on the application form, it does have you completed this? Or there's an option to say no, but I will be completing it in semester 1 of 2022. So just fill it in to the best of your ability.
So I'm conscious of, thanks, Maddie, I'm conscious of the time. So what I'll do, maybe Chelsea, last question, and then I'll hand back over to Viv. And people are free to email me if they want to, and I'm happy to speak to you about the course individually if you're interested.
No worries. I was just going to ask whether there's a rough sort of price guide for out-of-pocket expenses and whether there's any opportunity for funding for any of these, clinics that are based elsewhere.
So I'll let other people answer it, but we are in a very fortunate position with the on-country course that for the pilot, we have the funding of generous donor, Chris Marks. And so it's likely that almost all of your travel expenses will be paid for if you're successful in getting a place on that course. We can't speak for the future, and I know Jonathan has something he'll report in relation to other clinics, but yeah, it's relevant and it's important on an equity front, given that the significant expenses of travel.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Viv.
Thank you very much, Anthony. All right, so running through some of the other clinics. First off, the International Law Clinic. So this is convened by Professor Don Rothwell and Associate Professor Imogen Saunders, both of whom are experts in international law. And this is a virtual clinic that's been running for a few semesters now. Having done international law as a prerequisite, but basically what the clinic involves is students working on a real international law issue that's in the media or that's very sort of current, very contemporary, identifying a nominal virtual client who would be interested in the work and then doing the work for them. So that's a bit hard to explain, but basically one of the examples that Don gave me was around the Myanmar situation. Jonathan might want to chime in on this, but the students decided to do a brief for Norway in terms of its seat on the UN Council in relation to how it should be voting, I suppose, or what it should be doing in relation to the military takeover in Myanmar. So very current and very important international law issues. And it's done this way because basically it works better finding a nominal client than trying to do this for DFAT, which should be much more restrictive, or one of the Australian government agencies. Anyway, 8 students per semester who work in teams of 2. And the other thing that the clinic involves is, for the first 6 weeks, is regular seminars with presenters who help the students understand what it's actually like to practice international law. So former government international lawyers, NGO activists, etc. So very exciting clinic that's getting some really exciting things to do. Environmental Law Clinic is another of our clinics. This will be changing a little bit next year because the Environmental Defenders Office, which has been the partner, has changed the way it works, and it wants us to rethink the clinic, which is actually a good sort of opportunity for us to rethink the clinic. But it will definitely entail work on environmental legal issues, including policy work and legal education, and exposure to current issues in environmental law, including most likely interaction with guest environmental law practitioners. I hope it's going to run both semesters, but we can't guarantee it's going to run in semester one because of what our partner has said about wanting to rethink it. So that's the Environmental Law Clinic. The Mediation Skills Clinic is a new one, and the purpose of this is to introduce students to the role of the mediator and the process of mediation. And basically, participants will experience the process of facilitating a mediation in the role of a mediator. So there is a lot to learn about being a good mediator, and if you're interested in that, well, that's the clinic for you. And applications for this, I think, are different, but Maddie, perhaps you can confirm that.
Yes. So applications for the Media Law Clinic, along with the Law and Development Clinic, which Jonathan will speak about later, those two clinics each have a separate process, and they'll be open for the entire month of November. For October, we have one application round for youth law, community law, environmental, international, and the prison legal literacy. They're all grouped into the one application, and a separate application for the deep listening, which Anthony was just speaking about earlier, and they'll be open for the entire month of October.
Great, thanks, Maddie. So all this information is, of course, on the website if you didn't catch it all. Another clinic we've got is the Community Law Clinic. So this clinic has 8 to 10 places, and it's certainly online now, and my understanding is that it will continue to be, but that's probably a wait and see a bit. And basically students work with particular lawyers in their particular area of practice, whether it be tenancy, street law, community legal education, whatever. So it's very much a, how does law impact on disadvantaged people in the community, and how can we assist? And Olivia, I think, is with us to talk about her experience as a student in this particular clinic. So Olivia, do you want to go ahead and do that now? Great, good on you.
All right, thanks for having me, everyone. So I did the Community Legal Centre clinic last semester. I think I would probably say it was a very enriching, probably the most enriching experience I've had at university. So it went throughout the whole semester every week. I was under the direction of a supervisor, Parister, who was a human rights lawyer. So she was head of the Darawang project. My experiences there were, I would say, really diverse. So I ended up attending the AMC, and I did an interview, or I attended an interview with a prisoner, a detainee there, and I ended up writing my project around his experiences. So my project was in the form of a brief to council on the topic of grounds for human rights action in relation to segregation at AMC, with a focus on sort of disability, mental health, and Indigenous detainees. I sort of, from my experiences at Community Legal Centre throughout the course of the semester, from that work, we ended up getting a lot more clients in who had the same experiences at AMC. So that was something that sort of continued ongoing even after I've left CCL. In terms of the coursework, I think it was really good. So we had a weekly seminar where we sort of were able to bring in sort of experiences that we'd all sort of shared throughout the week. So dealing with difficult clients, dealing with sort of systems. So another aspect to CCL is housing and tenancy. So I'd attended a meeting at ACT Housing, also sitting on the ACAT tribunal. So I went in there one day and got to listen to a few hearings. So I think like my experience, all that was really diverse, really enriching. I think it shows a really deep appreciation of not only like the legal issues that people face, but also, you know, tying that in with the social aspect. Yeah, it's a really sort of deep experience. So I would highly recommend, especially for people who are interested in, you know, advocacy and community legal issues and human rights issue in the community. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Olivia. All right, the next clinic we're going to hear about is the Youth Law Clinic. Just as a quick overview before Tilly gives us her experiences, this is our biggest clinic. I think it takes up to 20 students. And it's a partnership between ANU and ACT Legal Aid, which of course is the biggest legal aid provider in the territory, or the formal legal aid provider, let's say. And it involves direct face-to-face engagement with clients. I mean, obviously during COVID that's been, well, it isn't actually face-to-face, but you're basically working with clients. So trained by legal aid staff about what you would be doing, and then working 1 day a week in the clinic. So interviewing clients about their issues and then working with the lawyer to provide initial advice and guidance. So again, a real insight into the ways in which law impacts people, particularly young people in the community. So Tilly, do you want to take over there and tell us about your experience?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. So, yeah, as Vivien said, the Youth Law Centre, YLC, it really gave me the practical hands-on experience and direct engagement with clients that I just hadn't had at law school before. And it was a really, truly enriching experience for me. I guess it's also important to know that the Youth Law Centre, it depends on its volunteer paralegals. So it's why the ANU program is really critical to ensure that young people in Canberra are still accessing free and confidential legal advice. And you really feel like you are a valued member when you do work there. So I guess a typical day at the Youth Law Centre, you would have 1 to 2 appointments a day. I did my clinic in semester 1 this year, so I was lucky enough to be able to do this all in person. COVID wasn't an issue at this point. And you would hold appointments with young people aged 12 to 25. And a great thing about interviewing young people and holding appointments with young people is that it's easier to build rapport. You've got more shared experience, which is great. Main matters that I saw were about tenancy, motor vehicle accidents, employment, and minor criminal matters. Initially, you would do these appointments with the supervising solicitors, but once you, I guess, gain confidence, you could go into those appointments yourself and interview clients. So as a paralegal, you're there to give information, you're not there to give advice, but after each appointment, you'd step out of the interview room, liaise with solicitors, provide your own insight and the own advice that you would give personally, and then the solicitors would give advice which you would then go back into the interview room and give to the clients. And often what would result is you would often write what's called a letter of demand to parties, or make referrals to other organisations. So some other things that you would do throughout the day sometimes, conduct some research for solicitors or other legal aid lawyers. It was a great way to kind of meet other departments around legal aid as well. Some people also attended court with family violence duty lawyers, and sometimes you would hold appointments with walk-in clients as well. In terms of the coursework, there was a reflection assignment and there was a research essay assignment, and that was a really practical, I guess, essay which was based on your own experience, where you recognised a gap that needed to be filled at YLC, and a lot of people developed resources to support their essays with this. So yeah, that was the coursework, and then I guess the seminars were very reflective and collaborative and more about reflecting on our time that we had at YLC. So it was much more relaxed, seeing as you would do a 9 to 4 day typically. So yeah, for me, I'm in my final year. It really was really enriching for me because it taught me that ultimately I do want to be working with people. In my career, I wasn't completely convinced that I wanted to do law until I actually did this course. You can really see your criminal law courses, litigation courses coming to life. So yeah, I think ultimately it taught me that I wanted to work with people. Yeah, that was for me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or send me an email.
Thank you so much, Tilly. That's really appreciate that. So is that a question in the no. So we might leave questions till a bit later. I've just got an eye on the time because we also want to get onto the exciting opportunities with internships, which Jonathan's going to talk about. But first we've got to cover the Prison Literacy Clinic. Want to. This actually came out of a volunteer law reform and social justice program, legal education clinic, and was turned into a course because it was it had such an impact, I suppose. And when we're not dealing with COVID, then the idea is that the students go with a convener out to the Andrew McConaughey Centre, out to the prison, that is, and meet with a group of detainees who are chosen by the centre, so you don't necessarily know who they'll be, and then talk to those detainees about what they want to know about about the law, because obviously being in prison, the law has had a significant impact on them, and most probably not just the criminal law. Many detainees have had a whole complex lot of legal issues, so it'd be both criminal and non-criminal law impacting their lives. And then students do the research and organise interactive educational sessions around those topics that they do with the detainees. So we've got Sam here to talk about experience at in this clinic. Is Sam here?
Yeah, I am. Hi everyone, how are you doing? So yeah, as was said, the AMC obviously determines the group of detainees that you work with. I did the clinic last semester. It was my last semester of my law degree. It was a really amazing experience, really formative in the direction I want to go in. As far as coursework goes, obviously you're going to conduct legal research on a wide array of legal disciplines. I think we did police powers, parole, human rights and sentencing, and that was something that we came up with collaboratively with the detainees after the first workshop. So you attend each week and present a workshop, but the idea is that it's interactive, and we were lucky we had a really engaged group and it was very interactive. There's also a research project and a reflection piece. I think there's nothing quite like this course, I don't think at all, on offer. I felt throughout my degree that it was somewhat sanitized, and you can forget that the law is fundamentally human and it implicates and impacts people in a very significant way. And being able to go to the AMC, I hadn't been to a correctional facility before. It's definitely confronting because popular culture obviously tries to depict it. And you have these ideas or probably misconceptions of how it's going to run and the way people are going to act. But yeah, it's after the first few weeks you settle in, it really becomes about the human connection with the detainees. As I said, we were really lucky. We had an incredible group who were really engaged and happy to contribute. So there was some guys in there who were also studying, doing university, so we could connect on that level. And it definitely highlighted the punitiveness of imprisonment, and also it was a really stark reminder that the criminal justice system inflicts a lot of pain on people, and also highlighted a lot of other issues. And it's really interesting to hear from their point of view, because we're obviously taught to think about the law in a certain way and analyse issues in a certain way, and they could bring some really interesting perspectives to the table, perhaps in the way the law actually works in the real world, and highlighted a lot of vulnerabilities, and that there's often cross-section of social issues and health issues as well. that compound and manifest in legal issues and interaction with the justice system. So yes, I would highly, highly recommend it. As I said, I don't think there's anything really like it. It's quite confronting, but it's incredible the interactions you can have with these people and the connection you can make.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. Those are wonderful insights. So thanks for sharing your experiences there. So just wanted to note that there's 3 clinics that in the list, if you're looking at the website, that won't be running this next year. So I won't be covering them. That's the Indigenous Community Legal Clinic, the Public Interest Law Clinic, and the Kimberley Aboriginal Justice Clinic. So they're not running, but last but not least, Law and Development Clinic, which Jonathan is going to speak to.
Thanks, Vivien. So the Law and Development Clinic, it's the code laws 4301, and as Maddie indicated, the application is in November. It was previously known as the Myanmar Legal Clinic, but because of obvious reasons related to the Myanmar military coup and the COVID outbreak in the country, there was just the risk factors made it difficult to continue the program there. So we redirected it and have reorganized the entire program, and we're going to be focusing on the Philippines and working through colleagues that I have at Cebu, so specifically the University of Cebu. It's typically run in January, usually the the 3rd or 4th week in January. And the way it works is that students from ANU will travel there physically and work in a collaborative setting with law students from the University of Cebu. And we're also having discussions about potentially including law students from the University of Hawaii. And all of you as students will be working in teams, multicultural teams, to address legal issues that are of significance for the people in Cebu and the surrounding areas. The topics for the projects are at the discretion of the University of Cebu Law School. So it's something that a lot of the faculty there are engaged in a lot of NGO activities with the surrounding communities. And so they have a lot of the on-the-ground connections and more of the awareness as to what they think is relevant and important. We're hoping to generate an outcome from the clinic so that the work that you do, or any of you who are interested, that the work you do in teams produces documents that are going to be put into practice and into use by the various NGOs who are involved. So this clinic in particular is meant for any students who have an interest in developing countries, doing a lot of work overseas. Some of you may have interest in working in the future with various ministries doing aid work. So this in particular includes DFAT, but I know that some of the other ministries do similar work. Some of you may also have interest in trying to pursue careers with aid organizations, so NGOs, or international institutions like, say, the United Nations, those kinds of things. And so this clinic is very much directed towards that kind of a focus. And so the clinic will be led by myself, with a law and development focus. One of my colleagues at the University of Cebu, Rose Lisa Esma Osorio, who's also has a law and development focus. And then if the University of Hawaii contingent is able to go ahead and participate, then there's David Foreman, who's a specialist in the Pacific, in issues of the Pacific cultures. One of the things I should caution is that obviously COVID may affect the travel arrangements. Our understanding right now is that the travel restrictions on international overseas travel is supposed to lift in November, and that presumably, at least for anyone who's been vaccinated, that it should be possible to travel. The one thing that we're having to monitor is the Philippines, and having conversations and continuing conversations with my colleagues in Cebu about the travel issues there, and as well as sort of what their perception is about the COVID risk factors on the ground. If we're not able to physically travel, then the clinic will run on a virtual basis. So we've done this before. in a pilot phase project where we had students collaborating in virtual sessions via Zoom on Teams. It's not the same experience, but it is a backup that's available. And so it's something that I will be upfront about, and just so that you're aware of this. The one final note I'll make on this is that we have NCP funding for this, so that that there is funding to subsidize the cost of travel for any students who are going there. So for any students who will experience a financial imposition, that the NCP funding is available for that travel. If you have anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I'll do my best to answer the questions. This clinic is typically, the prerequisites are a little bit different. And I think Maddie can go a little bit further into that. They slip my mind at the moment. But typically the students who do this are usually in their second to last year or last year before graduation. But like I said, if there are any things that you think you can waive, just send me an email and we can discuss it. So thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Can you just tell us how many students you're likely to take in that course?
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry about that. Because of the NCP funding and because of the potential issues or restrictions with our colleagues at the University of Cebu, at the most, it's going to be 12 students. That's subject to change depending on what the people at Cebu say. If that's too many, then we may reduce that number down to about 8 or so.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I've just noticed the time. So we're going to talk quickly about the application process, and I'll just pull out a few things to particularly note, but do note that all this information is available on the website. And Maddie, please chime in when I'm talking or after I've finished to emphasise things that you think need emphasising. So first off, the selection decisions are made according to a few criteria, and those criteria are on the website. And I'd like to emphasise that it's a holistic sort of appreciation of your capacity and aptitude to work within a particular clinic. And also that it's sensible for you to actually write your application for the clinic that you most want to get into, because you can then focus on what you can bring, your capacity to work in that clinic, and what you can add to the work of the clinic. So you'll see on the website that we take into account things like we've already mentioned: demonstrated commitment to social justice, understanding and interest in the goals of the specific clinic, relevant past experience and skills. On the other hand, we also recognise that some people are too busy working for money to be able to do much volunteer work or get involved in social justice stuff. So don't let that put you off if that's the case, but explain it in your application. So quite a few things are taken into account, which I'll let you take note of from the website. Unfortunately, we don't have enough clinical places for everyone who wants to do clinic. But please be assured that just because you don't get chosen doesn't mean you're unsuitable or not capable of performing really well in a clinical course. It's just that places are limited. And if you're not in your final year, then we encourage you to apply in the future. And also to take note of all the volunteer work opportunities available, as we've been talking about with the Law Reform and Social Justice program.